Welcome to Bat Therapy, psychology of Batman, superheroes, and other comic book characters. Be a fly on the wall or a bat in the cave, listening in on a friendship built out of a love for talking Batman, comics, and the everyday struggle to achieve mental health and happiness.
We are your hosts, clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown and educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and social media and find our Patreon at patreon.com/battherapy.
This podcast is about providing education and understanding and is not a replacement for mental health treatment or support. If you're needing help, go to bat-therapy.com for resources.
All good things must come to an end.
We say adieu.
Two heroes in training. This was a fun season. I really enjoyed it.
I mean, we're biased, but we enjoyed ourselves.
That's true. That's true. There's not a lot of times when I'm like, we shouldn't have done that episode. I'm like, no, we're the best.
Well, and so sometimes one of us will be like, I don't know about that episode. But almost always the other person's like, no, that one was great. And it's like, okay, I feel better.
Yeah. One of us is like, I don't know.
Okay, sometimes I'm like, I don't know how that went. All right, are you happy?
Yeah. And it's always me that's like, it went great.
It depends on the season, though. I feel like earlier seasons, it was the other way around. So I don't know if that has to do with the topic or if that has to do with just, you feel different at different times of year or different things going on. So maybe,
much like heroes in training, we had to find our rhythm, you know? It's one of those things. We had to find our rhythm.
Like heroes in training. Yeah.
It's
cool
funny.
Runnings.
It's really funny because we've been doing the podcast now for over 2 years now. And I still don't mention it to everyone. I don't mention it to everyone. My wife never forgets. We were at a bar in Newbern and someone heard me talking and they were like, man, you got a voice for radio. And she just goes, he has a podcast. And I'm like, she always remembers to mention it. And I never talk about it.
See, I do try to surround myself with people like that. So Keaton knows this, but so my friend, Dr. Jordan Lane, who actually guested our first guest, yes, the Captain America Truth episode. I like to we do lunch and then we'll go to a comic book store because he's far better at making me tell people things than if I went by myself. If I went by myself, I would just sneak in, try and find a place to put down my cards without telling anyone and run away.
Well, I think it's because in my mind, no one wants to be that I have a podcast guy. I don't everyone has a podcast, right?
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things. I never want to mention it. I'm just like, if it comes up in natural conversation.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I'll be like, yeah, I have a podcast and we talk about if I'm, I'll mention it. But otherwise,
I do have
if someone's like, man, you have a deep voice. I'm not like, yeah, guess what? You want to hear more of it? I'm just
God, you should though.
Oh no. Absolutely not. Absolutely not, because it sounds like a threat. It doesn't even sound.
Or a proposition.
Right.
Oh, that's hysterical.
I think he wants to come
I do
back
have it
to
in
my
my
house
CV
and talk
though.
to me.
Yeah. So, if anyone ever needs to look at my curriculum vitae, I put it in there. I was like, why not?
Yeah. And so, but yeah, we recently had to redo bios for the school that I work at, and I mentioned it there. I mentioned in his free time he likes playing video games, watching movies, and recording his comic book mental health themed podcast with his friend. And a couple people messaged me like, so you have a podcast? And I was like, yeah, I do. It's called Bat Therapy, and yeah, check us out. John Aston has.
It is. Everyone has a podcast, and also no one does.
Yes.
It's a weird thing. So all the famous people now have podcasts. So that makes things harder because, we all want to listen to the famous people. But all the famous people have podcasts now. and there are, I mean, so it's okay. Me not doing any of the tech stuff. Hello, Bill. We love you. Heart. Uh, for doing all that tech stuff for us. I mean, it is fairly easy to be able to put stuff out there if you want to. And we definitely want to encourage people to who are listening, who are thinking about it. Go on, go do it. We did it. It's fun.
Yeah, it's possible.
But
Definitely
there's also a
doable.
lot of people who don't have podcasts and find it really impressive. And I'm like, oh, I mean, I just hang out with my friend once a week
Right.
and then we put it out in public for people to listen to and hope that they don't ridicule us for it.
Yeah. Yeah. But like I'm like I really liked this one just because it's um I really like the idea of these epic heroes that we love,
Mm,
knowing that like, oh, they weren't always like this. They had to
yeah,
start somewhere, or they're currently still in training. Like, I mean, and I think, and the thing that's interesting to me, I think in order to be a good hero, you can never stop learning. Like Batman
yeah.
learns stuff still, and like every issue he learns something new to put in his utility belt, right? Clark's still learning stuff. Like you can't punch everything, bro. Like, and he's been Superman for how long? People with magic still sneak up on him every time.
Sure
So
do.
how did this happen? Oh my god, I should have known. Yeah, you should have. She literally had a spell book and she was chanting and floating in the air, and you literally flew right into it. Like,
Congratulations.
yeah,
You're a
learned
sucker.
nothing.
Yeah.
Bruce
Yeah.
is laughing at you.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. It's actually so I supervise up and coming psychologists essentially. So trainees that are going through the process to become psychologists, and that's actually one of the things that I talk about with them all the time is that I pretty much say something to know about me is that I'm always going to look for your strengths and what sets you apart and what makes you you. And then I'm a believer that we all have areas to grow and improve. And if you stop finding those things, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
And so I totally agree with you that one of the things I really liked about this season is we didn't just focus. I mean, we mostly focused on heroes starting or creating their identities, but we also hit on some later on, or like the Justice League. I really
Mhm.
liked that one because here you have all these people,
Secret Society. Yeah.
yeah, you have these
Yeah, that was
fully
a good episode.
formed heroes, and now you need to come together as a team.
Yeah.
And here you are in training all over again, and then they don't really like that. But yeah, I totally agree with you that the in training piece, a lot of times we think of, oh, you get to a certain point and then you stop. It's like, well, no, not really. I mean, think about how obsolete the Batmobile would be if he never upgraded it, or
Right.
like the utility. You were talking about the utility belt. You got to swap stuff out. You've got to learn new things. You got to stay fresh.
Yeah. And I also love because yeah, there's the current superhero, this current superhero is still learning, but
Mhm.
I also really loved when we were doing Gen V, because the
Mm,
whole idea of Gen V is just, and Godolkin University is so interesting to me. Like, oh,
yeah,
it's a superhero school, and in an extremely corrupt world.
yeah. What could go wrong?
What could go wrong? What could go wrong? Oh, they went out to the bar and they got drunk, and oh my god, he made a mistake and slit a woman's throat, and now all hell's broken loose. Like
Yep.
those are the things that actually happened. Like we didn't really talk about Teen Titans this season, but like I
Oh
feel,
no, we didn't, did we? We meant
yeah,
to.
I this is something I feel like happens to us every season. We pick a theme
Hmm.
and we never run out of ideas. You
It's true.
think we're gonna run out of ideas,
That's
but
also
we
true.
don't. We
Yeah, that's
don't.
true.
We could have kept going. And yeah, we completely forgot about
We just
the
get to a point
Teen
where we're like,
Titans.
are we ready for something new? Yeah, but yeah, it's true. I mean, I can. So I have my little cheat sheet of all our list of things from this season, and yeah, there's still a giant list of things that we didn't do.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
Oh,
never
yep.
gonna run
Teen
out of
Titans is on
material.
this list. Sad.
Yeah, we're never gonna run out of material. It'll be fine. Well, there's so many different versions of it we can do. And by the time we swing back around, James Gunn might have a new Teen Titans all ready for us to go.
Yay.
But
Yeah, yeah. So you were saying something about Robin or Teen Titans and I interrupted you.
I don't remember. But I do just I really love this this idea that you have to start from somewhere, and I
Yeah.
think that's something that rings true in real life too, like even whether it's a teacher or like you said when you're training up and coming psychologists, like no matter how good you are, you have to start somewhere. I mean there is a world full of prodigies out there, but even they got humbled
Yep.
once or twice. That's why I really loved the Gotham Girl
Yeah.
episode, because it's like, okay, they're superheroes. They actually have powers, and Batman still has to teach them and show them the ropes despite him
Mm-hmm.
not having powers. And I love the way that they set it up too, because they set it up like, yes, Bruce is clearly the veteran superhero, and they show up right when Bruce is about to be like, I guess it's over.
Yep.
I
Give the
guess it's
boys my
over, which
love in
such
his
a
way.
heartfelt moment. Like I knew they weren't going to just kill him 3 pages into the book, but
Oh, but it got your
it got
attention.
me, especially when he's talking to Alfred and he's like,
I
did I do a
know.
good job? And I'm like, oh, you did great, Bruce. You did great. So I'm holding my Batman pop figure next.
Yeah, I definitely I love that episode too. I mean, that I just really like Gotham Girl's character a lot. And it is really interesting where we didn't as much talk about the being trained trainee and trainer
Mm-hmm.
relationship that much this season, but it is really interesting. And one of the things I like about Batman a lot actually is, okay, bedside manners not always great. I recognize this. If he could fix that part, he would be phenomenal because he is so good at matching the training to the person.
Yes.
And you're right, with heroes in training, you can be really great, but you still got to start somewhere and you're always going to have something to learn. And that's tricky when you're nearly indestructible and you have
Yeah.
all these powers no one else has, to be able to accept that.
Yeah.
It's part of why the Secret Society episode, the Justice League, why
It's
they
great.
struggled quite a bit
It's great.
versus what else do we talk about? I mean, Percy Jackson, or a lot of the ones where you're younger and okay, there are all these other people experienced and I'm learning from them. I think that's an easier pill to swallow, especially when you've got all those powers that
Yeah.
set you
Yeah.
apart.
And it's always good to have a mentor versus just trying to do your best and figure
Mm,
out what is going on. Like and that was one of the things with like our the Kamala Khan episode,
yeah.
and how it's like, okay, you have these powers. There's not someone next to you that can teach you how to use them. It's you and your best friend trying to figure out how to use these powers together. And it's a great thing that you have a support system with your family that'll help
Hmm.
you out with it. But they cannot show her how to use these powers, say, like a Charles Xavier, who specializes in
Mm,
teaching
yep.
uh, the teaching mutants how to hone their powers and how to use them. And so Heroes in Training hit a lot of different areas, because I mean, I think we started it with Shang-Chi
Hmm.
with
Yep.
Dr. Jackson. He came on
Yep.
and we taught Shang-Chi, who knew how to fight because his criminal empire running dad taught him. He learned from the best, but he was just like, actually, I'm gonna run away and I'm just gonna park cars because this ain't for me.
Well, and the interesting thing there is he retrained
Yes.
and learned it was such a great representation for mindfulness too, because you have that scene in Tao Lo with his aunt, and he's coming at her closed fist and violent, and she
Yes.
slows him down, opens his hands up and has him flowing with the energy. I thought that was such a cool way of just showing the retraining and okay, yeah, changing his physical movements, but also his mindset of how he approached all of these things. So yeah, for him it was really cool too, because he's a hero in training, but it's a retraining from some pretty dark days that he went through after his mom had died.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then, I mean, and we also have that, a similar angle with that with Barry Allen and Reverse Flash in the CW show. You
Mm,
have Dr. Harrison Wells, who is the best mentor ever
mm,
for Barry, the absolute best mentor. But on the other side of
awkward.
that, the worst. Also, the best
Yeah.
villain ever.
Yeah, that's a mental twist too. So, because with heroes in training, also, especially if you're talking about starting out, it definitely helps if you have a mentor or someone you look up to. But there are a number of these storylines where, yeah, you find out the imperfections in that person, or
Hmm.
they might even be the villain in some of the extreme circumstances.
Right.
Oh man, to have to have to realize that, oh, even the heroes I've looked up to,
Yeah.
they can't live up to how I've set them up in my mind, which also must
Yes.
be terrifying, because that also means that you're not going to be able to live up to that hero
W-
level that you're striving for.
Yes, unless I mean, our Tim Drake episode, when the whole point was that he's doing his own thing. He's his own guy, and I think
He's a
that's something.
level-headed one. I'll hand it to
Yeah,
him.
and I think that's something that like really stuck out this season too. Is like they still all walk their own paths. Like, yeah, they like a lot of
Hmm.
them have guidance, a lot of them have training, but at the end of the day, it's still them that have to make these hard decisions, that have to decide like what they want to do, how they want to go about things. Even like with Bruce Wayne deciding like, okay, here's the time, the moment when I'm going to decide, okay, I'm not going to kill people. If I'm going to do this,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do it without killing people. I will beat them to a pulp. I will definitely put them in the ICU and I will pay their medical bills. I have no problem doing that. But what I won't do is kill them, right?
Yeah, yeah. Which is an interesting line. I mean, could you find a non-violent way? But whatever. I guess
Nope.
we non-billionaires can't be choosers or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's figuring out those lines is definitely interesting. What do you stand for? What do you symbolize?
Hmm.
I mean, that's actually something that Bruce Wayne has talked about with like all of his proteges and
Hmm.
the people that he's trained. Is, gosh, what was the story? Was it, no, it's the Batgirl one where I think it was near the end, he shows her who he is, and he's like, now you know my reason, you need to figure out yours.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I mean, for some people, okay, they have powers, and so having having a sense of purpose and meaning in life is really important. And so, a lot of times, if there is something that you're really good at, then you can get some sense of meaning out of whatever that is. Not necessarily, but for a
Hmm.
lot of people, those things might line up. But then you also have the heroes who there's not something obviously super heroic about them. And so I find their path to finding a reason to be a superhero particularly interesting.
Yeah. Well, because you have some of them where it's just kind of thrust on them. Like, by the way, you're this super secret you're this super secret person and no one knew you had powers until now and it's being revealed to you. Like, I mean, that happened with Avatar, that happened
Mm,
with Percy Jackson, that happened
mm-hmm.
with Harry Potter. It's like, okay, you're growing up and it seems like everybody knows who you are. You don't even know who you are.
Ugh,
You're just a kid that's just
yeah.
like, I like airbending. I like swimming. I grew like and Harry's his own thing. I live under the
Harry's like, I'm not
stairs.
in a closet anymore, so I'm happy.
I'm happy. I'll take that. What and
Yeah.
he I feel like I'm not sure who had the hardest, like who had to go through the most eye-opening experiences at once, Harry or Percy. Because Harry is just living under a closet and then a giant on a moped shows up and it's like, I'm taking you to
Yeah.
school, and then he takes him to a bank, passes by a dragon, and it's like, see all that gold? Your parents left it for you. It's like,
But
what
see,
is going
but
on
see,
right
Harry
now?
Potter is so when a child is in an unsafe environment or a chaotic or scary environment, they have very few things to cope. And so fantasy and imagination's a big one. And so Harry Potter is almost as if the dream he had of of escape became real. I
Yeah.
mean, the most spectacular version. So I agree. I mean, like I think it was a bigger shift because Percy Jackson, his mom was kind of prepping him
Hmm.
without telling him that's what she was doing. Like he knew about all these creatures, but he just didn't think they were real or whatnot. So I think his wasn't as abrupt, but his was a harsher change
Yeah.
because his was your life's in danger. I mean, like Harry's was in danger, but in a different way. It was mostly like here's all this magical wonderfulness, and by the way, all the professors here aren't are going to make you kids do all the work. But with Percy Jackson, it's like you're literally being hunted this whole time.
Yeah, you're
So,
just your mom's like, we're going to the beach, and all of a sudden it's like, actually, a minotaur's got me and sent me to Tartarus. It's like,
yeah,
Jesus, what?
he got thrown into
Why
that a
is
little
this?
harshly. I
Why
mean,
is
like
this happening?
he was like weird that creature that I thought was made up that I had to memorize for no apparent reason appears to be chasing after me, and other people aren't seeing it per se, you know. So
Yeah,
there's that part too. But yeah, for him, I think it was more brutal but less surprising.
I
Maybe I
think
don't know.
I feel like Aang had it rough too. Like
Oh
waking
well,
up
yeah,
100 years later, his best friend is now a crotchety old man who they did
is a
not do
jerk.
well in that live action. In the animated series, they did Boomy so much better. That's
Okay,
like,
yeah, his character was kind of weird in the live
yeah,
action.
they did Boomy really weird in the live action. I loved Boomy in
Mm.
the animated show. Which, speaking of that episode, so that was the one where Colleen came on,
Oh yeah.
and so she was getting weird like feedback every time she talked, and so that's why she didn't sound she didn't quite sound like herself when you listen to the episode, because she was getting feedback from my laptop when we recorded. But she
Fun
had
times
so
with
much fun doing we had so much fun doing that episode. I'm glad she got to come
Yes,
on.
fun fact, Keen's wife is just as nerdy as he is. So
Maybe more. Maybe more.
maybe more.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Especially when it comes to like Broadway musicals and stuff like that. Like, she definitely out nerds me when it comes to
Mm.
musical theater for sure. And Disney. Jesus Christ, Disney. Yeah. Um but yeah, Aang, he wakes up 100 years later, all of his people are gone. Like, not just, oh, passed away from old age. All of his people were murdered.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Aang Aang is he's just a wonderful soul.
yeah,
Like there are there are some people in this world who just manage to hold on to a wonderful spirit in spite of just all the terrible things out there. And yeah, I enjoyed watching his character. I mean, I think during the episode I talked about like, okay, sometimes you need to get down to business. Like he's not he's running from some stuff. Uh but in spite of all that, I mean, like you just see this purity with him, and that's kind of a nice thing with Heroes in Training too. Is okay, you've got the dark side, you've got your Bruce Waynes, you've got your traumas, your calamities, and your uh, something happening and giving someone powers. There's all this abruptness and chaos and everything. But you also, in a lot of these stories, you have this hope and this drive and this innocence and energy that is just really wonderful. And
Mhm.
actually, so I was talking about training earlier. I honestly think that, so let's, relating psychology training to like superheroes in training. I'm a better clinician if I train and connect with younger clinicians and with clinicians who have been doing things and have more experience than I do. It helps to connect across the span.
Okay.
And one of the really wonderful things about the heroes in training who are just getting started is that it's the freshness, it's the energy, it's
Yeah.
the okay, yeah, there's naivete that happens, like we were talking about Gotham Girl or whatnot, but there's just a different energy and perspective that's so great. And I think Aang is a really great example of that.
Yeah.
And Cassandra Cain, I think, has some wonderful quirky spirit to her too, despite all of her limitations with communication and everything. That I just love those pieces of the heroes in training.
I was just about to say, as far as being nervous about episodes, I remember because normally what we do whenever we have a theme for a season, we start by just doing long lists of like who falls under this category, what can we do. And I remember you mentioning Cassandra Cain, and I was like, yeah, she's a cool character, but I don't know how much there is on her. And you really stuck by it. You were like, no, we have to do Cassandra Cain. We're
I
going to do
love
it.
her.
And it ended up being one of my favorite episodes this
Yay!
season. I absolutely loved that comic. I loved that episode that we did on her. It was so, I think I just loved how wholesome it was. Like it
Yeah.
was just, it was something like I walked away from, like there's so many times you don't walk away from comic books super hopeful. You walk away a little bit hopeful because at the end of every Batman issue, he's like, I'm like, and I will always be there. And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
sun is
You're just
rising as
waiting for
he's
the next.
driving off in his rocket car. But I'm like, they're gonna get out of Arkham. Like I know.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna happen again. Like, because Batman comics always also give you that like 1-page cliffhanger to let you know what's coming up. And I'm like, damn, really? He
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
beat Croc and now Clayface is out. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, this was unique. You're right. So, Shadow of the Batgirl is, I mean, it's not canon, but it essentially took all of those things and said, "Hey, let's create one story
yeah, it's
for
canon to
Cassandra
me.
Cain." It's canon to
It's
us,
canon to me.
and
Yes.
and it was just so wonderful seeing her connect with Batgirl and
I love
oh gosh, I
Barbara in
forget
that story.
the other woman's name that she met up with, and it was just, you're right, like you kept saying, okay, when's all the terrible stuff gonna there is terrible stuff that happens, and yet it's just so wholesome and hopeful, and it's, I feel like it was trying to give her a shot and saying, hey, here's is teenage, preteen, teenage,
Yeah.
somewhere in there, girl, and let's set her up for a better future than past.
Yeah.
And I loved that. I'm so with you on that. It was definitely more young adult in the feel and the vibe,
Yeah.
but you know what? Sometimes I don't want to be an adult. So
Yeah.
it was a nice little escape. I'm with you. I was so pleasantly surprised by that because I knew nothing about it except I was looking for a Cassandra Cain plot.
Yeah. And I also really do love that we went off base a little bit this season. We didn't just stick to the comics, like, cause I love that yeah, Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, Ninja Turtles.
Oh
Really
yeah.
I was really, really excited that we did Ninja Turtles because that has been like my favorite thing, as a kid growing up. And also I loved going back and watching X-Men Evolution, which yeah, I've really enjoyed this season. We switched because we switched up and then went and did some really awesome stuff for Mental Health Awareness Month, which
Yeah.
I absolutely loved. If y'all have not listened yet to our latest episodes that we did for Mental Health Awareness, I highly suggest you check them out. I highly suggest you check out all of our episodes and then download all of them, delete them, and then download them all again. Just get our numbers way up. Just get our numbers way up.
There. And then once you're done downloading them all the different ways you can as a podcast, then go to YouTube.
Yes.
And just play it as a playlist. All of them. Just have it running in the background.
Yeah. All of
them.
Click
I don't
like.
know how many days that
takes. Smash that like button and subscribe.
Smash the like button, subscribe, follow, comment.
Yes,
all
please
of
comment.
Those things. We have a Patreon too. You can support us that way as well. Yeah. It does, cost some money, blah, 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 to do this stuff. Also, ideally, hopefully we can do a con sometime.
That's been something we've been trying to set up. We want to run a Bat Therapy panel at a Comic-Con, and I think that would be a whole lot of fun if we could do.
Yeah, we just gotta figure out logistics and finances and all that.
Yeah, gotta figure that out. But one thing that if you love listening to us, if you could please do, just go rate us on wherever you listen, whether it's Apple, Spotify. Just please rate us, leave a comment, let everyone know how much you're enjoying it. That would be really great.
All of that stuff, it actually really, really helps. It really helps us just be places visible to people. If you go where podcasts are, if you go on YouTube, not just listening, but the rating, the commenting, the following, all that stuff is super helpful.
Yeah. And I'm excited for what we have coming up because we throughout this Heroes in Training, there were certain things that I always laughed at, and that was what they did on the other side of things. Like with X-Men Evolution, one of the things I loved about it was, they have powers and everything, but they're also still worried about failing their math test. Right? Yeah. They're also, it's like, and it's, Kamala Khan, she still has the crush on the boy and she's worried about going on a date with him. Even though she has all of this other stuff going on, she's like, I have to build my cool costume for the con that I'm going to. And so I really loved that. And I think that's what gave us the idea for our next season.
Yep. So we're doing no capes.
No capes.
So we're going to start probably with The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Because it was just a fun.
Because it's right there.
It's just right there. But yeah, we want to do the alter egos. We want to do the behind the mask. What's going on? What's going on when they're not super heroic? That's not a word.
Yeah.
Superhero.
Being super heroic. Being superheroes.
Or super villains. Although the villains, we're as we're thinking up our list, it's harder to come up with villains who have two sides. But we'll find them.
Eisenberg, he's there. He's right there.
Yeah. Okay, so Keaton wants me to do Walter White and
right there. Very interesting.
Breaking Bad and all that. I mean, I hear you. It's just, okay, you know how I was saying how I love Heroes in Training? They're so hopeful and it's so uplifting. Breaking Bad's just a bunch of drugs and...
It's about a science teacher.
And cancer.
A high school science teacher who wants to help his family. Yeah, he's a great guy. He's a great guy.
So maybe you'll have to listen.
At the beginning.
You'll have to follow next season to find out if Keaton talks me into doing Breaking Bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a commitment. It's what, like 8 seasons?
You don't have to. Oh my! First off, you've seen all of Breaking Bad, right?
No, I saw it somewhere.
No.
Okay, you've repressed this memory because we have had this conversation.
You've seen Breaking Bad. Okay,
I've seen Breaking Bad.
It's fine.
I think I skipped some seasons, and I think I watched the last episode or two. And you know how I just, at a certain point I get tired, and then I just
you do that.
Okay,
that's so unhinged. That is.
What? Okay, first off, we talked about this. We don't use such language.
Okay. I'm just. That is.
So, so the listeners can be as disgusted as you are. I am the person who starts watching a show and I want to know how things go, but I can't just live my life watching the TV. And so I get impatient. And so that's what Wikipedia is for. It's for you to read up and see. And then I wouldn't say that I read the back of the book, because books take less time. Like a movie's different than a TV. Like if you've got a TV show like Breaking Bad, that's so much. That's a lot. It's a lot to get through. So yeah,
also
Wikipedia is my friend. You can judge me if you want.
Emmy Awards.
So yes, I have not finished Breaking Bad. I think I have watched the last episode though.
It's fine. But I am. So yeah, and I will tell you, when we talked about doing No Capes, I was thinking about like what superheroes do when they're not out fighting crime at night. And the for some reason what popped into my head, the first thing that popped into my head was that scene in Batman Forever when Robin is doing laundry. But it's like jujitsu laundry with like a side of acrobats. Like it was.
Dude, maybe we need to throw in some like season 1 style episodes, because remember season 1 we did more like some different themes and topics and stuff. So maybe some of them shouldn't be characters. It should be activities, like doing the when do superheroes do their laundry?
It's a solid question to ask.
It's a solid question. How do they pass classes?
Yeah.
How do they keep their driver's license current? How do they get some of these basic things that I think we should throw in some episodes like that?
And because they're alter egos, they can't write any of that stuff off on taxes. None of it.
How do they fill their resume?
Yeah.
You gotta make money during
the day.
When do they
sleep?
Or night?
When do they sleep?
That's a great one. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, sleep one would be really good.
Yeah. When do they sleep? Because I don't. It's a lot. It's a lot because I mean, you think about average superhero, and we'll definitely dig into this. The superhero stuff is what they do when we sleep. Like most of the superheroes aren't daytime superheroes unless you're like Superman and you got super speed, or Barry, he has super speed. The super speedsters, they can work more in the daytime, but you don't,
because you can conceal your identity better if you can work fast.
Yeah, Green Arrow doesn't work on a sunny day. He doesn't. It doesn't work right. Not in the. Also, it's just I feel like the all green leather just looks uncomfortable in the sun. I'm just like, I'm hot. Like that's.
He wouldn't survive Central Texas very long. I'll give you that.
Right. Right.
Yeah. One summer and he's gone.
Yeah. They're looking at him. You failed this city.
He's just a puddle of sweat on the ground.
Throw a bottle of Gatorade on his collapsed body.
He has to go to the hospital for dehydration.
Yeah. Something that might happen to superheroes, right? I mean,
yeah.
We're
gonna have to throw in some episodes like that, but we can't get into it too much right now.
No, we can't.
We'll do a prologue like we always do. Probably, right? Are we doing a prologue, or are we just jumping in? I forget.
Probably. But we're also going to be testing out some new formats.
That's true.
We're
Yeah.
also going to be testing out some new formats, and I think we're going to have some fun, but we also would love feedback.
Yes.
We'd love feedback,
Please.
characters that you'd like for us to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
characters that could potentially fit into current seasons. Just let us know, as we're especially on our Instagram, our Facebook page. Just message us, let us know. Our YouTube comments,
YouTube.
we
Yeah.
read the YouTube comments, and
Mm-hmm.
so the I love when people comment on it. I've gotten to talk to people that listen to the podcast a couple times whenever I visit local comic book stores, and they're like, "Oh man, I love this episode," and it makes me incredibly happy that there are people out there that are enjoying this as much as I do. And so yeah, it's been fun. And I feel like Heroes in Training, that's like a common constant theme. I feel like it's gonna keep
Mm.
coming. It's gonna keep
Oh, yeah.
coming back around. It's gonna keep coming back around because new stuff keeps keeps coming out. We get to see how much of a hero Deadpool's gonna be this summer.
Yeah, I'm excited for that movie.
That was a fun episode too.
We even talked about Deadpool versus Wolverine,
Yeah,
and because they've got some similar powers, so
yeah. I think it's
I
gonna
wasn't
be
even
great.
thinking about that when
I
we
think
were
it's
talking
gonna
about
be
it during
great.
that episode. Yeah, I'm excited for that movie to come out.
Yeah, it's gonna
Yay!
be excellent. It's gonna be excellent. But yeah, no capes. And like I said, let us know if there's someone
Yeah.
out there that you like. Hey, have you thought about doing this person? Because we're still in the very, very early stages of this season, and we would love for our listeners to get involved.
Thanks for nerding out with us. I'm clinical psychologist Dr. Amelia Brown.
And I'm educator and comic aficionado Keaton Hopkins. Check out my TV and movie reviews on YouTube at Team JVS. Check out our website at bat-therapy.com, our Bat Therapy YouTube channel, and follow us on social media. And don't forget our Patreon page at patreon.com/battherapy. See you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.